yawning. A brand new day is dawning. Pull up the shade and let the sun come through. Good morning, glory. Spend about an hour underneath the shower and keep on singing like the birdies do.
Books of the Week back on the air, much to the chagrin of the shall we say unanointed. Whoever you may be. This is a show we do out of the CPL radio network in Cedarburg, Wisconsin. We are a library and we're also a radio station. You put that in your, pipe and smoke it. I am joined on this show by a book critic. And actually, I would like to maybe say the book critic. Steve Donahue. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
No, nice to see you.
I'm not the book critic.
There's others?
No, there are others. Yes, we are a wonderful, motley, heroic band.
Do you ever go to like a book critic banquet?
No.
No.
No, we don't get out much.
No. I'm going to organize one this year. It's going to be huge. As Steve reminded me at the top of the show, and I'd like to bring up the fact that this could very well be the most watched and listened to library radio station in the country solely on the strength of a show called New Book Tuesday, Books of the Week. I'm in such trouble. Today we are going to break the mold. There's a mold. And we are going to not visit your local bookstore. We are going to take a detour down the byways of the mind to the movie theater. Yes, it's summertime. Summer movie season is nigh. Steve, you don't really go to movie theaters per se, do you?
No.
No.
No, that's where people are. No, I don't. No. I might do that if not for the fact that the last time I went to a movie theater, a person 2 rows in front of me got a phone call, took the phone call, and had a phone conversation.
Oh.
And there was an usher right there. I wasn't even looking at the person. I was looking at the usher saying, okay, this is when you step in, right? This is why you're getting $4 an hour.
This is why when you ush. Yes. No ushing required. I also had that experience recently, and we've talked on this show about firearms and weapons, and we both probably have taken a stand against them, but I'm okay with ushers carrying guns to take care of those phone issues. I'm sorry. It's just I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. But movies are ubiquitous. They're in everyone's lives, much like books. Not at all. Even my breakfast this morning, Steve, even my breakfast was recently represented in movies. I'm halfway through a Pop-Tart, and Jerry Seinfeld just made a Pop-Tart movie. So, it doesn't take much. Did you watch that?
The books of the week goes to the movies.
This is it. This is what we do.
I was going to phrase it. I was going to say just when you thought the show couldn't get any more interesting, but I think just when you thought the show couldn't sink any lower also applies here.
Just when you think that the show can't be canceled.
I should point out that as I pointed out before, when we have delved into movies, that I have history as a movie critic as well.
You do? Yeah, absolutely.
It's not as nearly as extensive as a book critic, but all 3 of the movies that we're talking about today were adapted from books.
Right, absolutely. And also, there's a movie coming out, I know, soon on a topic that you and I have covered on this show exhaustively. There's a movie called Bratwurst coming out soon. Wait a minute. Okay, no, I got that wrong. Oh, that's okay. Anyway, 3 movies today. Steve, why don't you get us started before I send more bad jokes your way?
Well, we should probably start on a nice, fluffy, light note. Right?
Oh, sure.
We should start with a rom-com. Because my producer and I, when we have wandered in the groves of love, have always encountered rom-com type things. That's what romance is all about, right?
My groves of love had nothing but burrs, Steve. Burrs.
I know, and poison ivy.
Oh.
We could start off by talking about Michael Showalter's adaptation of The Idea of You, which was a novel. Started out life as a novel. And it's the story of, if there's any delicate way to put it, an older woman, a woman who's not in her 20s.
A mom.
A mom, a young mom. It's the story of a young mom who makes that special connection with the lead heartthrob of a boy band.
Happens every day.
It happens every day in fiction, that's for sure, because it's a subgenre of fiction. There are so many of these books.
Oh, I had no idea. Oh, interesting. Okay. All right.
There are hundreds of them.
Oh.
I have a theory as to why. Naturally, of course, I have a
And
theory.
this is the place for your theory, actually. There's no other place in the world that wants to hear it but here on Books of the Week.
My theory is that the female authors of these books were the screaming fans of these bands.
Sure. New Kids on the Block, Backstreet
The
Boys.
demographics line up perfectly.
Yeah.
They might deny it. In fact, a couple of them have hilariously gone on The View or Oprah and said, I didn't even know what boy bands were until I had a flunky research this book. I don't believe it. And I believe there's incriminating evidence to prove my theory.
The incriminating evidence are the books.
Well, in a way, the incriminating evidence is the book.
Yeah.
Yes, because the idea at the heart of all of these books, especially the idea of you, it's right there in the book, it's right there in the movie. The idea behind all of these is that there is a secret, hidden, real person in the form of these singers and boy band fans. The idea is that if you can only get to the right approach angle, you'll find that genuine person who happens to be world famous and incredibly wealthy.
I thought the same about my ex-wife, actually. I discovered that wasn't the case.
No. In the case of your ex-wife, so too in the case of, I would say all 8 of my ex-wives, and they're all the same wife. We just kept making the same mistake over again. And as is true in real life, the reality is totally wrong. That's not true at all. And it seems to me that if these books weren't born from the same guilt, the same personal experience, they wouldn't all have that same attitude.
Mm-hmm.
They all have the one thing that unites them all, whether it's the size of the boy band can be different, the nature of the relationship can be different, the job of the older female protagonist can be different. But the one thing they all share in common is that there is a genuine, real, yearning person underneath all those layers of starhood when there is such a person. Right. And that's what happens in the book and in this movie. Showalter's adaptation of the book is extremely faithful.
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway plays the again, I don't know the delicate way to put this, the mom. Plays the mom. And there's some tobacco addicted set of cheekbones that they got to play the leader of the boy band. He's popping off right now. His name is Galitzine. Something like that. And his career is popping off. Mm-hmm. He has that kind of generic good looks that most show animals do. He's starting to get work. He's in a few cable performances now, and he's got a couple of big products in the pipeline that will now certainly get made. Mm-hmm. He's terrible, of course. He is the perfect avatar of the kind of falsehood I'm talking about, because so
therefore it's good casting, right?
It is good casting. There is no there in either case. Right. If you were to somehow, adorably stumble your way backstage to a mega handsome boy band star, yes. What you would find is a quart of bourbon for breakfast and a bunch of preteen girl fans with mascara running down their face because they're bawling their eyes out right. For good reason. That's what you would find. You would find the absolutely stereotypical Charles Manson nightmare if you went backstage. You would not find what this Galitzine person tries to portray in the movie, what is portrayed in the book, which is I'm really a frustrated folk singer. Right. Well, the stardom thing is never anything I wanted. Right. I'm not relishing it in any way. It's just, and you connect me with something real. You bring out the real me. As the line in the book and the movie goes, I just want to know you better.
You and I have never heard that line delivered to us.
Well, no, but in our case, it's totally justified.
Yeah.
In our case, the people who need the quart of gin for breakfast are our listeners.
That's true. I got a picture this week from our fans. This is what they do when they listen.
There we go. If that is not our core demographic, I don't know what is. I believe that's my mom and your mom.
I think so. Oh my goodness! Oh, my mom would be all Mogan David. So last night, to prepare for this show, I decided I will queue up The Idea of You on Amazon Prime, which I think is its main home now. And you know, I'm not a romantic comedy fan.
I bet I can guess what you're going to say.
Here it comes.
It
wasn't bad.
Really
Well, no, I did not, but it was well made. I thought actually, like, there was money spent, because a lot of these things look like Lifetime movies. This looked like at least a level up from a Lifetime movie.
Oh, in what sense? That there are no key grips in the frame? Okay, I agree. There are no
boom mics.
The table is not in the background shot.
I'm trying to find some iota of praise here. I thought Anne Hathaway I didn't finish it. I only got an hour in. So
okay.
But I thought Miss Hathaway is an okay performer compared to no.
You know how I know that?
How do you know that?
Because if she were, you'd have finished.
I had to go to bed.
In other words, you had to wander out of the room.
I was like,
you're not watching good acting.
I didn't say good. I said she was fine. She showed up. And here's the thing with this movie. I would have bought it a whole lot better if they had carved out the boy band aspect, because this is a May December type thing going on here. And that to me was a massive distraction. If they had just kind of covered this kind of broken mom, because here with Hathaway delivers one monologue in the hour I watched,
right,
which I thought was, hey, here's an actual moment of acting.
Right.
So that's where I'm pulling she was fine. But, the first 20 minutes of the movie, I was actually enraged because I hated everyone in this movie. I despise these people so much.
That didn't change for me.
No.
I kept right on hating everyone all the way to the end of the movie.
Very good.
Although I agree with your point completely, that the boy band aspect, now that I think about it in the movie, and now that I think about it also in the book, is completely unnecessary.
It is.
This could be a parking garage attendant.
Yes. Now that would have been interesting. That would have been fascinating.
The fame element is barely dealt with at all.
Yeah. I didn't. I thought that what they were trying to say about the boy band aspect was fine, but it should have been a different movie. I mean, let's deal with that in a movie, poorly. But I mean, I'm hearkening back to the biggies of rom-com. So Sleepless in Seattle and When Harry Met Sally, all of that, those core essentials, the Philadelphia Story. I mean, you want to go way back. I mean, if you take The Idea of You and pair it with those, totally it's a disaster then. I mean, it's like, because the boy band aspect that this should have been funnier, because you could do that and do it funny. It wasn't that funny. And then, the
only reason you would have a boy band aspect would be for comedy. And it was totally undeveloped.
Absolutely. Get Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker to do this movie. I'm there. But yeah, it's unfortunate that those choices were made. And I don't know. Yeah. It was frustrating. I was very frustrated because I wanted it to be good, because there were elements that were like, oh, do more of this, and they didn't give me more of that.
The problem here is that one of your two movie critics is inherently a nice guy.
Yes.
That's always bad. I humbly submit to our listeners that it was good does not belong in the same evaluation as it's unfortunate these choices were made.
Yes, I do try. My favorite critics are the ones who say there's a silver lining here, but it's not really silver. It's more like nickel plating. so
My favorite critics are the ones who say you should, and I'm being generous here, consider suicide.
So I'm doing a show with Rex Reed today.
Oh, honey.
What was it like working with Raquel and Myra Breckenridge? I must ask. Anyway, so that's.
For a minute, you were going to ask what it was like working under Rex Reed. Where did the time go?
Stay tuned next week for more on that. So anyway,
it's unfortunate these choices were made.
Oh my goodness. You know, it's a really good time to show another one of our fans here. He listens every week without fail. They're a wonderful bunch. Anyway, so we're doing 3 movies today, I swear. So let's put to bed, you know, the Anne Hathaway bit. I was kind of hoping she would have like done a little Catwoman bit in the middle just for fun, but that's just me. Anyway, movie number 2, Steve. Let's go off to the movies. What do you got for us?
Our next choice, we can move from something that was, I thought, incredibly bland to something that wasn't as bland. It was actually good, and that is American Fiction.
Which I have not seen.
It was directed by someone named Cord Jefferson.
I used to write Two-Fisted Tales for as under the name Cord Jefferson.
He adapted American Fiction from Percival Everett's book Erasure.
Yeah.
Percival Everett's novel Erasure is brilliant. Percival Everett is brilliant as a writer. I think Erasure is the best thing he ever did. And it's the story.
And he did James, the Huck Finn book that just came out this year too.
Yes.
So there we
go. Erasure is a story of a frustrated author. He is black, and he is writing serious fiction, really good stuff that is critically acclaimed, but doesn't sell. No one knows anything about it. No one knows how to talk about it. And he watches a sellout, a ghetto literateur. Somebody who spent, as he puts it, a weekend in Harlem.
Sure.
Come out with, well, the best way to put it would be a blaxploitation book.
Sure,
And the only reason that I hesitate to say that is because there are right now half a dozen commercially successful American authors who are straight up doing this.
Yeah.
They are doing it for irony. They're
absolutely
straight up doing this kind of one weekend in Harlem blaxploitation fiction. This author watches someone do that and become a bottle rocket success. And out of sheer frustration, he writes his own such book, My Pathology. He writes his own such book. It is every bit as exploitative. It is every bit as dumb and comfortable for the middle-class suburban racists who don't like to think of themselves as racist. And that book becomes a success. It takes off too. And he has to grapple with what that means. And
the timing is perfect, though. It sounds like the opening frames to Across 110th Street there with that.
Cord Jefferson does a very good job adapting that story. The odd thing about all 3 of our movies this week is that in all 3 of these cases, the movie is worse than the book, which is, in my opinion, rare. In all 3 cases, the book is better.
That's an interesting take that may require another show, because most people will give you the flip side, the mirror version of that.
My contention is that the movie is almost always better than the book.
That's really interesting from a book guy.
Yeah. Well, most books are garbage. And also most good books are garbage. And in a good situation, a movie director's his job is to get rid of the stuff.
Right. He's cutting off the fat, losing
I think that the examples that prove my case that the movie is almost always better than the book are limitless. and that the number of examples that disprove it are rare. So it's odd that we're doing 3 examples like that this time.
Right,
because
right.
Percival Everett is a great author. He's one of the greatest living American authors. And he brings out a lot more of this story. The movie, it has Jeffrey Wright, of course, and he is great. And,
Always wonderful, yeah.
All the supporting cast is great. Even Adam Brody, who will be known to a certain sliver of those 40-something moms from his role in a TV show 20 years ago.
Sure.
As the cute boy they could get, as opposed to the cute boy they can't get. He does. Percival Everett does so much more. There's so much more going on with the novel. I'm curious to know. I made a little note to myself to ask whether or not Percival Everett does anything at the library. I mean, do people know about Erasure at least? Did the movie prompt people to find Erasure?
No. I can tell you right now, no. I think James is doing well, though. I mean, that got enough ink when James came out that that is actually moving very, very nicely. I don't think anyone's explored his back catalog yet, but it's all about James right now.
The movie is immensely enjoyable. I should say it's not as good as the book, but that's because the book is a masterpiece. The book has so many elements that are in the movie, but Ford Jefferson necessarily has to downplay them. I don't disagree with any of the decisions that he made, and I don't think that the Star does either. I don't think if this had been a stupid cheapening desecration of the novel, I don't think Jeffrey Wright would have done it.
Yeah.
So you will. If you watch the movie, you will definitely like it. First of all, you'll definitely find it interesting. It will definitely raise questions in your mind about what you look for in the presentation of Black American life. What do you look for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those questions are all I'm trying to say is that those questions are far more elaborately raised and addressed,
right,
although not answered in the novel.
You mentioned the type of fiction that the blaxploitation fiction. What's his name? The Nickel Boys. Colson Whitehead has a couple books now that are the cover scream blaxploitation.
Right.
And
Colson Whitehead doesn't actually do that, but his books are borderline marketed that way.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
There are others. there are other authors who definitely. There's an American attitude. A white American attitude towards the American Black experience. And it does not line up very well with the actual American Black experience.
Right.
Those two things don't line up very well.
Sure.
And there's a comfort in that. There's a larger number of white Americans who find comfort in that fact. They find comfort in the fact that they don't line up.
Yeah.
And are very shocked when they get a glimpse of the real experience.
Right.
They're very shocked with that.
Well, that disparity is could probably be dealt with in further works of film and fiction.
I firmly believe, I know that we're straying far afield from the movies here, but I firmly believe that part of the reason why the entire George Floyd Black Lives Matter experience exploded all over the world is because it was a completely unavoidable example of the rest of the country being exposed to that illusion being ripped away.
Right. Absolutely.
It wasn't he said. It was filmed. So there was no way to avoid it at all.
Absolutely.
And that on a
what's that? Yeah, Heidi was gonna. Yep. Hello, everybody. We'll snip that out. My library director walked in.
So this is a recommendation.
Yes.
In both cases, both the book and the movie.
Excellent. Very good. Well, American Fiction is the title, and also available on Amazon Prime. So I noticed that was right next to so you can go that route. Although that did get a theatrical run as well. And I believe captured some sort of statue at one of those award shows. I think adapted screenplay or whatever. So
I'm a little unclear on whether or not the idea of You had a theatrical release. I think it did.
I don't think that one did actually. I looked it up last night, and it straight to streaming.
That's the amazing thing about our current moment of movies is that you don't know. You certainly can't tell from the quality of the production.
No.
Good or bad. You
Right.
can't tell from the quality of production. It's just, you just have to ask the question. It's just become a new question that you have to ask. Where did this originally show up?
Exactly. Yeah, and it seems to me to be what they would call in the business world a broken model, but we'll talk about that some other time, because I don't know, Hollywood doesn't like the fact that, because they're big fans of money. And I don't think this model brings in as much as it used to, and that's a problem for them. Anyway, you know what I wish they'd adapt, Steve? We're talking about books, becoming movies, and I found this one laying around, and I think this would make a brilliant film. I just would like to see kids love them, adults adore them, and they're so easy on the budget. Speaking of money problems, and my favorite here, there's over 250 recipes in this book. 250 things you could do with a hot dog. 251. Throw it away. Anyway, moving on to our final film. This should be a barn burner, everybody. I know Steve has a rather extensive history with this book, and go right ahead, sir. Carve away.
I can also strongly recommend as a book. As a book. The book is something we've talked about on this show before. Frank Herbert's science fiction novel, Dune.
Yes.
Widely regarded as one of the greatest science fiction novels ever written.
Indeed.
And a Hollywood magnet, because it's a massive story. It's a come from behind story. It's a roman à clef. It has a teenage male hero. It's got all the elements that you would need for a Hollywood blockbuster.
And they've tried 3 times now.
Yes. The Dune was originally filmed. I think the star of the book is a young teenager named Paul Atreides, who is dispossessed of his family by the evil Harkonnens and cast out literally into the desert, and allies himself with the native desert people, the Fremen, becomes their religious leader and warlord, and uses that indigenous power to offset and overthrow the emperor of the collected worlds of the galaxy. And in the first attempt to film a Dune movie, Paul Atreides is played, I think, by a 50-year-old man in a really bad hairpiece. That original movie has diehard BroTube fans. It's absolutely execrable.
It's pretty bad.
And then there was a science fiction TV series, adaptation that was fairly good. It was fairly good. There are a couple of set piece scenes that you have to have, except that the adaptation that we're talking about does not have one of them. Right. But if you pour money into those set piece scenes and you do the others well, you can make a good adaptation of this. I believe you could do it in 2 hours. Wow. Not 2 3-hour movies, but 1 2-hour movie. I think it's easily possible to do. But then peaceful decades passed, and we didn't know how good we had it. And then Denis Villeneuve decided that he was going to pull together an enormous pile of money and produce Dune.
Yes. His dream project, apparently.
Yeah. It was his dream project. And also, you haven't got back to me yet about that bridge that I was asking to sell you in Brooklyn. It's a complicated story about how I'm in a position to sell it, but I assure you it's completely legitimate. And it's been my dream project to sell you this bridge.
Yes, so I hear. Actually, the materials for your bridge just came in. We're going to make it just delivered on a pallet.
Denis Villeneuve produced Dune. I'm sure you've all heard of it. You've probably all seen it. This gigantic, soporific, monolithic thing called Dune, that at the end of its 4-hour runtime says that it's part 1. Surprise! Because it only takes the story to the point where Paul Atreides gains control of that native Fremen group.
Yes.
It doesn't take the story any further. It doesn't give you his revenge. And there is now a Dune 2 in theaters, and it gives you the rest of that story.
Right.
Paul Atreides harnessing the power of the Fremen on the planet Dune in order to take control of the resources of the planet and threaten and then overturn the rule of the Galactic Emperor.
Right.
for some unaccountable reason in this movie, played by Christopher Walken. Although
I'm not sure he knew he was in the movie, though.
no, I don't think he did.
I fear.
There's. Have you seen Dune 2?
I have.
There is no point in the movie when he seems to know what he's doing.
He does seem like this is Pulp Fiction, right? I have a watch in my ass. Right.
There are multiple scenes where he sort of looks around at the people around him in crowd scenes. That happens multiple times, and I kept expecting him to say, "Who are these? Why are you all dressed this way?" we have the return of all of the original cast but one. Right. There's the actor who played Thufir Hawat, a major character in the book, is not in this. We don't hear anything about that character in the second part of this movie.
That's true.
And a couple of other elements are downplayed. Paul Atreides is a sister. Right. He's a little baby, an in utero sister who grows into a small child and plays a pivotal role at the end of the book. That doesn't happen here. No. And believe it or not, I'm okay with those kinds of decisions. The Thufir Hawat plot. His role in the book, or let's say the movie after the first part that Denis Villeneuve films, is vestigial. I would cut it anyway.
Yeah.
And the whole plot about Paul Atreides' little baby sister is also vestigial. I would cut that as well.
Sure.
In this movie, the revenge that Paul's sister takes on the evil Baron that destroys their whole family is instead taken directly by Paul. I can live with that. I can absolutely live with that as a decision to adapt a complicated book.
I have to ask you about one decision, though, and I've been just chomping at the bit this entire review. The Chani factor. How did you feel about that?
Yes. We can fill in our listeners just in case.
Sure.
Denis Villeneuve put together a pile of money for this movie based largely on one thing and one thing only: Timothée Chalamet. Mm-hmm. This is a star movie. This is a movie with a star. That was not true with the original film version of Dune. That was certainly not true with the sci-fi version of Dune. This is a star movie. And once he was able to announce that, once he was able to put word around to that, well, then the money started flowing in. Mm-hmm. And it proved to be a justified expedition, definitely. Yeah. And that star plays opposite Zendaya, who plays Chani. In the book, Chani is a Fremen woman. Paul Atreides falls in love with her. It's a genuine spiritual bond. At the end of the movie, Paul realizes that he must have a marriage of state with the emperor's daughter.
Right.
That he can't overthrow the whole empire. He can just overthrow the emperor.
Right.
And that means he needs to control the empire, which means he needs to be in the line of succession.
Certainly, yes. Mm-hmm.
And in the book, Chani understands this completely. Yes. Of course she does. Yes. In the movie, weirdly, she appears not to. Yeah. She appears to be a petulant girlfriend. and it shows an endemic problem with the movie. It was present but not prominent in the first half. It's all over the second half, which is that Denis Villeneuve doesn't know what to do with not Chani. I think Chani, the character, he would know perfectly well what to do with any middling competent director, which is exactly what he is, would know what to do with Chani. What I say is that he doesn't know what to do with Zendaya as Chani, because Chani is a fairly simple character, and Zendaya is a powerhouse as a theatrical performer. So, of course, that's difficult. What do you do with that? As a result, she's like our Brat cannon. She misfires in all directions. She's not convincing as a super warrior. She's not convincing as a super warrior. She's not convincing as a cunning theoretician. Mm-hmm. And she's not convincing as a girlfriend. Yeah. You know, leaving out Frank Herbert, leaving out the author's portentous phrasing, that's what she is. Yeah. She doesn't end up being convincing as any of those things, largely because I think the director had no idea what to tell Zendaya to do. Sure. Absolutely. Well, and I'm not sure. But all of this is just whistling past the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Yes. The gorilla in the room is actually 112 pounds, not 800 pounds. Yeah. It's the aforementioned star. Mm-hmm. Because if you build a movie as a star movie, then the star has a lot of power on set. He has as much power or more than the director does. You've shredded this gentleman in this very room in the past. I don't know. My producer is not going to be able to tell our listeners anything about what it's like to have your professional life governed by a preening prima donna. He has no idea what that's like.
Folks, everybody, this is why I turn to Pop-Tarts in the morning.
I think I'm not one to cut Denis Villeneuve a lot of slack. Dune 2 is almost as bad as Dune 1. It's incredibly overbloated. It's incredibly overserious. It's incredibly overdone and weirdly poorly shot. When you think about something that is big and sprawling and difficult to shoot, and the decisions that directors make about that.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes in the golden age of Hollywood, the director says, well, I don't care if it's difficult to shoot. I want to perform a miracle. And so you get Lawrence of Arabia's troops storming the outpost. And at first you see a few men and you think, all right, well, yeah, you had a budget. And then he pulls back to a rooftop and you see them all.
Sure.
He performed the impossible.
Yeah, Kurosawa's Ron.
Like Zack Snyder in 300. He had lots of big melee fight scenes to do, and he intentionally does them in a weird, closed set kind of way. There's no background at all.
Yeah.
It's just individual men, and it works because he's in complete control of the compromise that he's making.
Yeah.
But with this, which is it? Which of those two things is it?
Yeah.
I sympathize completely with the difficulties that he faces there, but those difficulties are only worsened at every turn by Timothée Chalamet. What on earth? What on earth? I didn't understand him in the first part of this movie, but in the second part, it's unavoidable. I don't think anyone can understand him in the second part. And I don't mean just literally understand him, that weird New Jersey drone of his. I mean,
right.
Did he get the script for Dune? In the book Dune, the spice melange is everywhere. It's in everyone's body. They're all addicted to it. Whether if you're on the planet,
you're on the planet, right? Yeah,
you're going to be addicted to the spice melange. Did he get that? Have somebody read the script out loud to him and think, "Oh, so it's a movie in which everyone is stoned," and think that's my thing? Is that why he gives the performance that he does in the second part? What on earth is going on?
Yeah, he tacks on some affectations to his performance, and they're jarring. Well, yes, I agree. They're very jarring.
Unbelievably jarring. They are the equivalent, the mirror universe equivalent of Christopher Walken just not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
When Chalamet, most of the movie, he just verbally sleepwalks through. Exact same tonal register, exact same facial expression, exact same everything. There are a couple of moments where he is clearly told not to do that.
Yes.
He's clearly told to do something else. And he's practically looking off camera at the director while he's doing it. I kept thinking about that Tommy Wiseau scene. I kept expecting him to say, "Oh, hi." Oh, hi, Denny.
It's the room on Arrakis.
Looking off camera saying, "This is what I should be doing at this moment."
Absolutely. Wow.
He is, in other words, in short, he is never convincing.
Yeah.
Never. As Paul Atreides. That's kind of a big deal when the whole movie is based on Paul Atreides.
Sure. It's funny because I also have thumped through his Wonka movie.
Oh my God.
And that
we can get to that. Oh my God.
I found his performance extraordinarily problematic in that one too. The only time I've ever found him convincing, and maybe he should tilt his career towards that, when he's on SNL, I find him very funny. I actually think he has some comedy chops, but
that's true. He wasn't insufferable on SNL.
No.
The problem with part 2 of Dune that was completely missing from part 1. The problem with part 2 of Dune, the conclusion of Dune, whether it's a miniseries on Sci-Fi Channel or a movie or a 2-part movie, is that in part 2, there's a backup Paul Atreides. And it is lethal if the backup Paul Atreides is more watchable than Paul Atreides. And that is absolutely true. In the second part of Denis Villeneuve's Dune, the backup Paul Atreides is the nephew of the bad Baron, the evil Baron. He's a character named Fade Rotha.
Everyone loves Fade.
In the Execrable movie 70 years ago, he's played by Sting in a leather bikini.
Right.
And in this movie, he's played by Austin Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Who had a massive flop playing Elvis Presley.
Mm-hmm.
but largely because I believe the Elvis Presley movie was marred by whatever Tom Hanks was doing in that movie. I don't know what it was, but he's in every scene. You can't avoid it.
No.
If it had been just Austin Butler as Elvis Presley, I think the movie would have done well.
Oh, sure.
But here he plays Fade Rotha, and he is effortlessly better than Timothy Chalamet at being Timothy Chalamet.
Right.
Basically the same role.
You can't take your eyes off him in that
he's
movie.
Incredibly effective.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just the second Dune 2 overdoes the casual brutality of the bad guys.
Yeah.
It overdoes that big time. And Fade Rotha has moments like that where he's just casually vicious. But he has a lot of moments where he's not. He has a lot of moments that balance those, and they are incredibly gripping.
Yeah.
They are everything that Paul Atreides should be.
Right.
You would never for a minute in this movie think that any wild Fremen warriors would pledge undying loyalty to the Paul Atreides that you're seeing.
Right. Absolutely.
Never in a million years. You don't believe they would ever pledge him loyalty. They might show up to his apartment on Saturday, see if they can score some free weed, but they wouldn't follow him to death and beyond.
I don't remember that in the book, Steve. Right. You know, I think people seem to like Dune 2 a lot. The people I've spoken to, they seem to come away from it. Yeah, and
there's more to like than in Dune 1.
Sure. I mean, there's more action for that matter. Just to stay awake, is a nice thing. It's a beautiful thing. I will say the entire sequence on Giedi Prime, which is kind of what we're talking about with Fade Rotha, was so memorable. The way it was filmed, the way it was shot, there's a stylish flair of like black and white. Well, now, but it's memorable enough though that people come away and say, "Hey, that was a good movie." When in fact, I think they're forgetting a lot of the points you brought up. Yeah.
Like Paul Atreides' initial riding of a giant sandworm.
That was handled strangely too.
Yeah, being banged all around, and every time he's banged, he lets out a New Jersey. Oh, gee, it's not in the book, and it's not in the script.
I wish he'd been from Wisconsin. You could be like, oh, geez. Oh my.
The movie and the book famously end not with it ends with a giant space opera battle.
Yeah,
there's a gigantic panoramic battle scene.
Yes,
it's not very well done in this movie. You watch it and you think, okay, that's pretty good. And then you think, $300 million. It's not $300 million worth of film. Not at all.
Villeneuve pocketed most of it. Is that what we're saying here? Did put it in the movie?
Well, I think I know where most of the money went.
I think you might be right. Yes.
But the movie ends with that apocalyptic battle. Yeah. But crucially, the movie and the book climax on a very intimate human scale. Two young men in a knife fight.
Right.
And it is absolutely essential. If you are the director of Dune 2, it is absolutely essential that by the time you've brought your audience through 6 hours of watching this adaptation, when you get to that knife fight, they're rooting for the right person.
Yeah.
If they watch that knife fight and they're rooting for Fade Rotha, you have failed.
Missed it by that much, as Maxwell Smart used to say. So there we go. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, Dune 2 and Dune 1, and it's kind of sad because I don't know if you've seen this on and we can end with this, I suppose. On YouTube now, there are some very creative people who are manipulating AI, and they're making fake trailers of big budget Hollywood movies, but they're doing it in the style of 1950s, like The Robe and the Ten Commandments, and so it has a very kind of cheesy chintziness to it, and yet oddly enough people are loving those. And I think to see Dune filmed in that way, like if it was directed by William Wyler, one of the that would be, I think that's what Dune calls for. No one's tried that. Everyone seems to go the wrong route, and if you just simply set your camera up like you said in a battle scene and hire 300 extras or 5,000 extras, and that can't be hard. Come on, it's Los Angeles.
It sounds weird. It sounds outlandish. 5,000 extras? Didn't Villeneuve had 10 times the money enough to do that?
Absolutely. Just use a tripod. It's a wonderful device. 3 legs.
I firmly believe. Not only do I firmly believe that Hollywood has 100 young playing male leads who could have done a better job in this movie. Austin Butler could have done a better job in this movie as Paul Atreides. It couldn't happen because it's a star movie.
Right.
That's what helps to generate the money that makes it happen in the first place.
Sure.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But not only does Hollywood have 100 young male actors who could have done that, but also out there in the wilds, there are 100 people who could have directed an incredibly great 2-hour movie of Dune.
Yeah.
Make all the right decisions.
Yeah.
Even some decisions that I think are wrong, that I can still live with.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's easily possible to do. It does not need to be this big bloated thing. And now we're faced with living the rest of our lives with Denis Villeneuve adapting Dune.
Yeah, there's a third on the way, isn't there? I hear
Dune Messiah.
Dune Messiah.
Yeah, and Dune Messiah, I don't think it will ever happen. But if Dune Messiah actually does happen, it's the most frightening prospect of them all, because there isn't anything huge and operatic in Dune Messiah.
No.
Require Timothée Chalamet to act the whole time.
He doesn't come off smelling. Paul Atreides does not come off smelling like a rose in Dune Messiah. No, if I remember correctly,
complex little novel. Yeah. It's an extremely complex little novel about power and the disillusionment of power.
Yeah.
I am not trying to star bash here. Timothée Chalamet cannot do that. He cannot do that.
Yeah.
Simple as that. There's no harm. There's no me being mean to say that. He cannot do that.
No,
it's
you're
outside of his ability as an actor.
Steve is never mean to Timothée Chalamet. He reserves all of that for me.
Yes, I in one way I sympathize with Denis Villeneuve, because it can't be pleasant to have your work life dominated by a preening, demanding prima donna. That can't be pleasant.
No, it can't. There we go, folks. We went to the movies. We can say we did it. We could do this again. I think maybe in the middle of summer we'll do a little, a little touch up. I know that Steve is a fan of spectacle, and I have a feeling. I remember him. Was it Godzilla some Godzilla movie or Kong movie that just like sent you over the top? On your channel, you kept talking about it.
I might point out that I was also completely correct. It was Godzilla -1, and it did
-1.
really well at the awards ceremony.
It did do very well. It did, absolutely.
So it wasn't just Steve being crazy.
Well,
as it admittedly sometimes is. In Boy Kills World, Steve went crazy for Boy Kills World, and nobody even remembers that it happened.
Yeah, you did. I did. That's right. And that was I'm going to just cue that one up, because but I hear there's a little bit of bloodshed in that one, maybe.
I guarantee beyond a shadow of a doubt that you won't just wander out of the room because you got to work the next day. You'll watch the whole thing.
No boy bands in that one, I guess. Boy band kills world. Now there's a screenplay.
Boy bands that live, but then no one lives.
Wait, I got it. Like cigar chomping studio head here. A homicidal boy band. They go from town to town and murder. All right, work on that one. All right, there we go. Big money ahead. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in to this bizarre non-book episode of Books of the Week, the increasingly mislabeled, misnamed Books of the Week.
We'll probably be back to books next week.
I would hope so. I would think so. And as always, this remarkable, miraculous show is brought to you by a group that's a boy band in itself. I hope I didn't take Steve's gag now. A group called the Friends of the St. Edward Public Library, who do great work. Oh, Steve, hi. Yes.
One of whom was also a spice-addled messianic figure on an alien planet. And it's not the one you think.
Oh no, we have the Spacing Guild coming. Oh my gosh, a B'nai Gesserit, perhaps. There we are.
The way you'll be able to tell is the next time you're at a meeting and they're all at a break in the break room. Go up to one of them at the water cooler and say, "Fear is the killer," and see what they do.
They always ask me to put my hand in a box every week. I'm not sure why.
Actually, if you're at the water cooler, the guilty party will be pouring the water down their sleeve as opposed to drinking it, because you don't waste your water.
No, certainly not. Certainly not. Oh my gosh. All right, everybody, that is a show. We will be back. And thank you again for tuning in. Thanks for your lovely comments. I'm waiting for my sign, everybody.
So am I, to put it mildly. although I have to smile that on some level we're both aware of what we're perpetrating, because when you're finished with whatever this is, the most you can say is, well, that was a show. You're not willing to risk an adjective.
Of all the shows that are out there, this is definitely one of them.
This is definitely one of them.
Right. Have a wonderful reading week, everybody, or viewing week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.